Hi, my name's Daniel, and in this short video what I wanted to do was just answer some basic questions, or actually to give some basic advice between two high-end scooters. So we have the Dualtron Thunder and we have the ZERO11X, and I think here from the video you can sort of see the difference size-wise between these scooters. So I've owned both now for a little while. You know, I've done over 2,000 miles on the Thunder. I've done about 300 miles on the ZERO11X. So for anyone looking to buy a scooter, what do you go for? What's better? You know, now let me say one thing. Each scooter is, you know, has its own characteristics. Saying which one is better tends to be a personal preference. Now I say that because when I first got the ZERO11X, I didn't like the steering. I didn't like that it was really stiff, resistive, and it has like a center notch. So when you're in a straight line at high speed, you don't get the speed wobble. Whereas the Thunder doesn't have any steering dampening at all. It's just very light. And yes, you know, you can get speed wobble on it, which, you know, is dangerous. So on the legendary ZERO11X group on Facebook, you know, I said, you know, is the steering supposed to be that heavy, that resistive? And they said, you know, yes, it is. You know, it's designed to protect you. But, you know, I'm 5'5", I weigh about 70 kilos. I find the ZERO11X really hard to ride. It's fine in a straight line, but steering it is very different. You know, the Thunder is a lot lighter, it's a lot more agile. You know, if you were zooming in and out of things, the Thunder is a better scooter all day long, whereas the ZERO11X is really designed, you know, for a bigger rider. And it's not like, if I could compare it to anything, imagine the Thunder being like a motocross bike where you can flick it around, chuck it around the track. The ZERO11X is more like a super bike where you can't, if you're on a motocross bike and you turn, you just turn. But when you're on a super bike, you have to lean. And that's exactly the same thing here. With the ZERO11X, you have to lean as you turn. It's a very different scooter to the Thunder. So, both scooters are similar in their power. The ZERO11X is 72 volts, the Thunder is 60 volts. I believe the ZERO11X is 6400 watts, and the Dualtron Thunder, I think, is 5600 watts. But the ZERO11X is definitely more powerful, and, you know, so what would I go for top speed? I'd go for the ZERO11X because the ZERO11X can do, and I quote, can do 60 miles per hour. I've tested it on Strava. I've actually had 62 miles per hour out of it, and that was on the 80% power setting. That wasn't on full power setting. The Thunder, the most I've had out of it is about 52, 53. So the ZERO11X has definitely got, you know, better top end over the Thunder. But if I was to say which one is more fun to ride, I'd say, you know, the Thunder is definitely better to ride in terms of it's a lot lighter, it's a lot more agile, you can flick it around. It's definitely the more agile scooter out of both of them. Quality. So the Thunder was £3,100. The ZERO11X, I got it cheap. I don't know how, I got it brand new for £2,000 from someone that not far away that brought it and never used it. So, you know, it had like 10 miles on the clock, but I paid £2,000. But I think they're around 25 to 2,800 on average. The Thunder, better quality all day long. No ifs or buts. You know, I know I haven't had the ZERO11X that long, but I can tell you I've already started to notice just basic little things on this in regards to like the construction. The Dualtron is the better scooter in terms of quality. So if you were going to have both of these for the long run, Dualtron Thunder in general is a better quality scooter. I'm not saying that it'll last longer because it depends on how it's ridden. If you take either of them and you jump in them off road and you put them through puddles and doing whatever, neither of them are going to last very long. But the Thunder, now I've actually seen on one of the Facebook pages, the Dualtron Thunder, there are some owners that have had these for 10,000 miles plus and they still keep going. ZERO11X, haven't seen any stories like that, but then, you know, there's probably stories out there, people that have had, you know, a lot of use out of them. So, let's get down to the scooters themselves. So, design. I think the Thunder looks better. Now, I know I keep sort of giving the Thunder the winning recognition here. It's not my favourite scooter, and you know I don't prefer either over one another for all different things. You know, I have my preferences. I think this is definitely the sturdier built scooter in terms of, I mean, when you look at like the steering column. I mean, look at the size of this thing versus, you know, the Thunder's much more paltry, skinnier, you know, steering column. The 11X is definitely the more robust scooter. It looks like it could definitely take more of a beating off-road, whereas the Thunder is more of a road cruiser. If you're going to use something on the road, the Thunder is the better scooter. If you're going to use something off-road, the ZERO11X is better. I say that because of the suspension. So the ZERO11X has conventional motorbike-style spring-loaded suspension, whereas the Thunder... it is a rubber cartridge. The Thunder standard suspension out of the box isn't very good. It's very stiff. You don't get a lot of play, and that's perfect for the road. But off-road, you're definitely going to want some travel. But there's, you know, there is basic things. So, for example, when we look at the Thunder, the motor cables are routed inside the arm. You can see the cable runs in here. It runs inside the arm up to the motor, whereas on the 11X it runs on the outside of the arm, and you can see it here, and this isn't actually a good place to put it. I mean, you know, if you do a bit of off-roading, something flicks up that's sharp, that could easily cut into the motor cable. So, you know, this is definitely not the same, you know, build quality. And there are lots of other things, like when I got this, I noticed that, you know, there were bits of cable frayed. You know, it's just little design things like this. I mean, this is just poor. It's literally just left to hang out. You know, not so impressed by that. However, my ZERO11X come with nut brakes, which is pretty much exactly the same as the nut brakes on the Thunder, whereas I see some ZERO11X users seem to get, you know, different brake configurations. But I mean, there's just loads of little bits. I mean, this isn't even that old. Stickers are peeling off and whatnot. But you know, that's a minor detail. Battery: 32 amp hours, 35 amp hours, 72 volts, 60 volts. Now, again, I can't say which one is better in terms of a range test, because it really depends on how you drive it. I've done about 35 to 40 miles on the ZERO11X, you know, riding it fairly, you know, briskly, and I've actually managed to get 50 miles out of the Thunder. However, both scooters will have a similar range, you know, 32 amp hour, 35 amp hour. The actual battery capacity in terms of watt hour isn't much difference. I think this is 2100 watt hour, and this is 2000 watt hour. They're very similar in terms of battery capacity, but the ZERO11X is a lot heavier than the Thunder. And when I say a lot, I mean a lot heavier. Like, I can lift the Thunder easily, but, you know, the ZERO11X is a lot of weight. Where does all that extra weight come from? Well, really, the ZERO11X has got a much chunkier frame. So when we look at the steering, the twin forks on this versus the single stem on the Thunder, you can see where that extra weight comes from. You know, you've got much bigger, bulkier, lower suspension arm versus the Thunder. I mean, when you look at the sheer size of that, and then you look at it on the Thunder, I mean, the Thunder's puny compared to the ZERO11X. It really is a puny scooter. I mean, this whole assembly is a lot smaller, you know, than this. So the ZERO11X is an absolute beast. It's a much bigger scooter. It's much heavier. But that comes with its downsides. So, you know, because it's a lot heavier, yes, you've got 12 more volts than the Thunder. Yes, you know, you've got, you know, nearly 1200 watts when you combine both motors, 1200 watts extra over the Thunder. But realistically, in terms of speed, these aren't that much different. You know, the ZERO11X is faster, but realistically off the line, they're not actually that much difference, because the Thunder hasn't got to lug so much weight around with it, whereas this has. The headlights on the ZERO11X are fantastic. On the Dualtron Thunder, they are terrible. So if I just switch both of them on, so you can see. So on the ZERO11X, you've got these lights which are adjustable. You can change the height and adjust them, and the light that you get out of these is phenomenal, much better. Whereas on the Thunder, if we look at the Thunder, the lights are actually in the deck there. And if I turn the Thunder on, wherever the power button is, so that's what you get on the Thunder versus that. So on the Thunder, if you go out at night with the standard headlights, the problem is that the deck beam is onto the floor. You can only see a few feet in front of you. Not very good at all. You can't use it at night unless you get, you know, a battery light, extended light that runs off of, you know, the handlebars or the stem. Whereas the ZERO11X at night is far more usable. The lights are a lot higher. Beam pattern travels a lot further, so you can actually see. So what about the actual riding configuration? Well, so, you know, we have a single handlebar clamp on the ZERO11X, and on the Dualtron Thunder, we have a single bar. However, on the Thunder, you can actually unwind these, and they fold down for extra portability, which is great, and you know, you get the little carry part, whereas on this, you don't. So what's better? Well, this is better. This is better. So the Thunder is better because not only is it, you know, more portable, the EY3 that it comes with is a much better visual display in terms of all the different settings and just the quality of the display. The ZERO11X display looks nicer because obviously it's colour, you know, there's a bit more life to it. But this is cheap Chinese, well, this is a cheap Chinese display. I mean, it's used on pretty much most cheap Chinese scooters. This is poor quality. It's not very accurate. You know, it's not as good as the EY3 that you get on the Thunder, but neither are waterproof. So just bear that in mind. The other thing that I do like, though, on the ZERO11X is that you've got the voltage displayed constantly, so you can see what voltage that you're running at, which is great, because let me tell you now, this battery indicator is crap. Yeah, it's just completely inaccurate, whereas this is a lot better of an indicator, you know, to